Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to talk about the situation when your boyfriend prioritizes everything over you from your perspective, but he says that he doesn't. This is a situation that is common for women if they are in a pursue or distance or relationship or are the preoccupied attachment partner with an avoidant attachment male partner. And I'll get into that as soon as I tell you to subscribe. My most recent awesome subscriber episode was why to stop shaming your partner for their sexual fantasies and desires. And that is something that happens frequently, albeit unintentionally, such as the eye rolling, etc. And I discussed that in depth in that most recent episode. And there are over 120 other episodes, I think, by now, that are subscriber only. And of course, you should always join my Facebook group. If you go to Facebook and you click on the blue subscribe button for $4.99 a month, you get my group. And that is a fun place with over 250 people in it interacting. And I go in there and interact a lot. So anyway, let's move on. The topic for today is something I see with a lot of women. They are always wanting their boyfriend to hang out more and spend more time with them and ask them to hang out and say that they miss them and prioritize the relationship. And instead, the guy feels smothered. He feels that he gives more to this relationship than he ever gave to any other relationship, that he gives more time to this woman than he gave to any other women. And he feels, truly, he's not gaslighting you. Don't go down that hole. Very few men are narcissists. It's very rare. 1% of people are narcissists. So it's probable that he's not a diagnosable narcissist. It is much more common for him just to be avoidant attachment. And if he's avoidant attachment, what does that make you? It makes you preoccupied attachment. Go back to the attachment style podcast. That's a subscriber one to get an overview of this if you need a brush up or a refresher or to hear about it for the first time even. So what this means is that he was raised to be really independent and you were raised in a more an unpredictable environment. So you had a warm caretaker, but you couldn't always trust them to be around for whatever reason, depression, other kids, busy, bad marriage. For whatever reason, you had at least one parent that you really clicked with, but you couldn't always count on them. That makes you preoccupied attachment. And he was just always trained to be super independent and go play and take care of himself. So now he very well may be in love with you the most out of anybody. And he very well may, from his perspective, be giving you a lot of time. But that doesn't mean he really is. So on one hand, yes, you got to work on your preoccupied attachment. But on the other hand, this doesn't really get better, this dynamic. If you do work on your preoccupied attachment in therapy and work on your self-esteem and your ability to tolerate being alone, etc., it doesn't usually make you a better partner for an avoidant partner. Instead, you will be growing more secure. And therefore, you will be attracted to and will want another secure partner. The avoidant guy, you will lose interest in because he's really not around very much, even though he thinks he is. So avoidant attachment guys like this tend to go into occupations and have friend groups where being alone / with friends is prioritized, and that's the norm. So, for example, if he is he's a big corporate guy, right? So he's in a corporation where they have long hours and constant work travel. So sure, in his peer group, everybody's traveling. Everybody's staying in the office until 9 p.m. Everybody, that's who he knows. So from his perspective, yeah, he by coming home at 8 p.m. is better than the guys who continue staying till 9 p.m. But in reality, you have many friends whose husbands are home at 6 p.m., and who don't travel constantly for work. And then on the weekends that they're not traveling for work, they don't want to go do whatever sport they're into. And they don't also want to do poker night. And they don't also basically use the place that you live as like a place to just sleep. And try to be out of the house basically all the time with the exception of some dates that you go on. Or if you tag along to his stuff, right? So there are different norms based on who you are. Assortative mating means that you're attracted to people who are like you, but this doesn't happen as much when you're young as a sort of peer groups do. Of course, you want to be friends with people who are like you. So a guy, for example, that wants to go on week-long hunting and fishing trips, he's going to be friends with guys who go, right? And so all those guys are spending that amount of time away from their wives regularly. And so that is their social norm. And then you, if you are like a more of a homebody and more preoccupied attachment, or even more secure, although that would be over time. You're not originally going to be with an avoidant attachment man if you're not preoccupied attachment. You're not going to stay in that situation. Because, I mean, it really begs the question. First, I'll say what you'll do. You basically have friends that stay around the house, not the house, but you just stay around the area. You're home all the time, pretty much at night, and your job does not preclude you from seeing a significant other. You've basically made your life around having space for a relationship, and then your partner has in no way made his life around that. But anyway, my point was, sometimes people are like, okay, fine, but what does a secure relationship look like? Do those guys just not go on hunting and fishing trips or something? Do they just not take jobs where they're gone a lot? Well, to some degree, yes. To some degree, like if a guy really prioritizes a relationship, not to say he won't go away with his friends 1 week, a year here and there, but it's not going to be a default. It's not going to be that every weekend is primarily spent with his buddies and that work is until 9 p.m. and travel is constant. It's just that isn't the life. They're going to be more planning to be around, because they want to be in a relationship and they prioritize it. So it's like, if you... If you really think of the default, most important thing in your life as the relationship and one day the family that you will build, then you make space for that. But if you think of your work life or your social life as the default, then the relationship/family has to fit around that default. So it's really an incompatibility in what you prioritize as the center of your life. In a securely attached relationship, both people are on the same page. So yes, sure, there's a normal distribution even among securely attached people of how much time they spend together. But there's a difference. And the key difference is that both people want to spend time together. It's kind of equal how much they ask to spend time with each other and how much they plan for that time and how open they are about prioritizing it and verbalizing that they want it. So, I've seen this happen. There are some guys after therapy, they'll have the exact same work schedule, but their relationship will get a lot better because they have learned in therapy that it's important to text their wife and say, I miss you and I can't wait to see you later. And that's something they weren't doing before and that only the wife was doing. The wife was constantly texting him, when are you going to be home? When are you going to be home? We're not going to get to spend any time together this week if this is how it's going to be for the whole week. I mean, I don't understand. Like, you just had a week like this last week and you said it was going to be better this week and now you're gone all the time and what the hell, right? So instead of her doing that one direction toward him, which of course to him doesn't sound like anything nice at all. It sounds like she's just haranguing him. But of course she is doing that out of anxiety and the desire to be with him, right? But she's just expressing it poorly because that's probably the dynamic she saw in her family of origin, right? But anyway, so instead, if he learns to get out ahead of that, have the exact same work schedule, but literally to touch base with her more during the day and to verbalize the idea that he wants to spend time with her, then the relationship changes a lot. And that takes a lot of work. That isn't just a quick fix. Because an avoidant attachment guy, he doesn't want to do that. He feels that that's very like being kind of a pussy, like that's like not who he wants to be, is that guy who's like, oh, I miss you. I can't wait to spend time with you. He wasn't raised to be vulnerable like that. So if he can do some deep work and prioritize a marriage over saving face by always being the pursued object, then he can make real change. Generally, people don't want to make this real change before there's skin in the game. So a man with a family and children and a house and a marriage is going to be a lot more willing to try to change his attachment style in therapy than a guy who's just dating you. A guy who's dating you should not be in therapy with. That is not a winning strategy. If you are not compatible, even in the honeymoon stage, and you are seeing things like this happen, like this pursuer distancer dynamic, get out and work on yourself in individual therapy, because he has no need to change for you, and it is so much of a warning sign when people who are just dating are in couples counseling. I mean, I see them later. I mean, sometimes it used to be less common to be in couples counseling when you were dating, but I do have some couples that say that they were even in couples counseling when they were dating / before they had children, and they should have realized then that something was wrong. I mean, that was not the norm, for people to have that level of distress that they would require mediation of a third party and all of this stuff even prior to marriage. Does this mean that you shouldn't go to your pre-Cana class, which is the Catholic premarital counseling or whatever? No, you want to go to premarital counseling. Cool. That's like a fun thing to do in a sense, figure out. It's like taking a personality test, but like in person. Great. But if you're going for active conflict, I mean, that isn't a good sign. Don't get married in that. The active conflict is trying to tell you something. It's like pain. It's like, if you knocked your head into a wall by accident, you get pain. It says, don't knock your head into a wall again. Having conflict in early marriage is that. It's saying, don't do this. Don't do this. Get out. Anyway, the point here is, it is extremely difficult but possible to get into a securely attached relationship if both people are trying. Now, in that case, too, by the way, the preoccupied attachment partner does have to learn not to send these haranguing, blaming messages to the guy. So both people have to be working there in that situation. She has to learn to sit with her own anxiety without reaching out in an angry, blaming way toward him. And he has to learn to come forward more with his vulnerable feelings toward her. The point here is that people are really only going to do that within the context of having something to lose, i.e. a family. That's going to give you the motivation. If this is something that you're dealing with in your early relationship, early means before marriage and certainly, and even just before kids, then this is the universe telling you there are other men who will want to spend time with you. And the more that you work on yourself in therapy, then the more comfortable you will be with those men, because right now, remember, preoccupied attachment is because you had a warm caregiver, but you couldn't access them all the time. So to you, you may get bored. If you have not processed and grieved and worked through your childhood issues, you're still operating on autopilot. So you're still attracted to whatever you were raised with. So you were probably raised with, as I described, a parent who is not really fully accessible. So then that's what you're drawn to. But the more you work on that, then the more you're actually going to be attracted to guys that want to hang out with you. Oh my God, imagine, I hope you were sitting down. I should have warned you. But could you imagine, that could be your life, actually being attracted and falling in love with men who want to spend time with you and express that want. Right now, like a lot of women don't break up with the avoidant boyfriend because they say, well, shit, this is the only type of man I've ever been attracted to. This one's the best out of all of them. He's cute, he's smart, he has a good job. I can't really imagine being attracted to one of those nice guys that actually wants to hang out with me. I don't know what's wrong with me, and that's a level of insight, honestly, that's high, and that's right. If you don't work on yourself, you will continue to be attracted to men who don't know how to take care of you. I have a whole podcast on when men never take care of you, and or men who don't really express the desire to be with you, or who do it in such a moderate way. Not moderate, measured, a really minimal way. I mean, more than moderate. So these guys, like, it's not like they say, I hate you, never hang out with me, but they'll just say like, oh yeah, totally, we'll do date night. We'll do date night next Thursday. That's going to be good. Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to be really busy though. I'm going to be busy this week. I'm going to be busy the early part of next week. After our date night Thursday, that's going to be great. On Friday, I'm going out with the boys. We're going to go to Vegas. So that's going to be like, 4 days. Then when I come back, we're diving right into that next deal at work. You're like, what the fuck? I mean, you one night is the night that I'm going to see you. Of course, he may come home, if you share a place, have sex with you, etc. in the interim. But the amount that he's prioritizing you is really one night out of like 2 weeks, let's say. And so he feels this is good. He talks to his buddies. In fact, he's skipping a night. They were doing something on Thursday too, and they're all like him. And thus the women are probably like you that they're dating. And so he actually thinks he's doing a good job, genuinely, by making sure that Thursday is booked for you out of the next 2 weeks. Whereas you, the preoccupied partner, are hanging out with your girlfriends, and some of them have guys that are going out with them for dinner and drinks and stuff multiple times a week, And they watch the show every night together that they're binge watching. And you're like, what the fuck? Meanwhile, you would not be attracted to those guys because of what you were trained on growing up. You're trained on the partner that you're always trying to get, and you can't fully get them because you had a parent you were always trying to get the attention of and couldn't fully get it. So, you can, with work, get to the person that wants to hang out with you multiple times a week. That says, hey, so on Thursday, we're going to do date night. And then Friday, I plan for us to go away for the weekend. The week after that's going to be busy at work. But the next Friday, I told my mom that we're going to visit too. That is normal. That is something you can get used to. If you're super preoccupied attachment, though, and you haven't worked on it, then even that guy saying the one busy week at work is enough to fluster you and to make you reach out with blaming text messages. Now, if that's you, then of course you need to work on that in therapy, because even the securely attached guy who does want to hang out, an average amount or even a high amount will not be enough. So this is, you could also have a wake-up call from listening to this and be like, my boyfriend does want to hang out multiple times a week. He does prioritize me. My girlfriends say he does, so maybe it's me. Maybe it's really me. Maybe he's not avoidant attachment. Maybe there's nothing that's enough for me because I grew up in a very unstable home. My parents were always fighting. I wanted to hang out more with my mom. I could never hang out with her because she's always screaming back and forth with my dad. Then there was a divorce. I had to go to my dad when I didn't want to, et cetera, whatever the case may be. If there was an alcoholic parent, then don't even worry about it. That's the reason, because you don't even have to go further. An alcoholic parent is not fully accessible to a child. I don't care if they were violent drunk or non-violent drunk. When they're drunk, they're not accessible. So anyway, this should be something for you to really think about, given any sort of history with becoming involved with, quote, emotionally unavailable men. And if you need to switch the genders for this, then you are the man that's always going after women that are always making plans with their friends and going to Vegas with the girls and don't have a bit of time for you, then just do that. I mean, I do my posts on my podcast based on what I see the majority of people struggle with in so that people can really see themselves, so that more people can really see themselves in the posts and podcasts. Because sometimes people say, oh, why don't you do everything gender neutral? Because nobody reaches out about the ones that are like, when you're attracted to people that sometimes don't want to hang out. Nobody reaches out. But if I'm like, when you're like basically a 25-year-old girl that wants to get married to a guy that has a high-flying job and never wants to see you, like 50 people reach out and they're like, oh my God, that's my life. Because, that's a human thing. People like to feel recognized and known. So I talk to the majority, which is why the low libido partner posts I direct toward predominantly men struggling with that. Although I do have many, including one of my earliest ones about when your husband doesn't want sex, because I see that, again, 20% of the time in the wild and probably 30% of the people I see. But that is a tangent. And just to explain that, because sometimes I get those people on my Facebook especially, oh my God, why'd you make it about one gender? It has to be neutral. No, it doesn't. Get your own blog. Thank you for listening, y'all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.